up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I am so honored to introduce you all to ritual abuse, childhood sexual abuse, and Hollywood survivor, overcomer, and for the first time today, whistleblower, former Hollywood actress, cat mama and animal lover, artist, painter, and creative, sports and nature lover, puzzle piecer, psychology aficionado, avid reader, survivor testimony podcast listener, and an incredible woman coming forward to share her testimony with those who need to hear it after decades of silence, Laura. A little bit about Laura and what we will be discussing on today's podcast. By the tender age of 4, Laura already felt invisible, unimportant, and swallowed by an internal darkness where memories dissolved into raw, wordless feelings. At age 8, in a moment that shattered her world forever, her uncle broke into the bathroom and tried to molest her. His hands reached, but her terror saved her body, yet it stole her innocence. From that day forward, she lived petrified of every man, wrapped in constant anxiety and unable to sleep over at her friends' houses. She gave her mother 100 silent signs that something was devastatingly wrong, but her mother unfortunately looked away. The rest of her childhood became a desperate game of dodging her uncle, a shadow she could never fully escape. Fragmented memories haunted her, like the dark basement where her uncle carried her, too big to be held, pacing back and forth while fear choked the air. She knew there were no true bond with her mother, yet she spent her entire life chasing the love and validation that would never arrive. At age 10 or 11, her mother's cruel command, quote, "Go put on some lipstick," unquote, crushed Laura's budding self-worth. Laura walked up the stairs forever changed, believing her own mother thought she was ugly without makeup. She became obsessed with lipstick, a desperate shield against the message that she was never enough. Her mother ensured she carried no self-esteem into the world. Yet, even in the dark abyss, a still, small voice called to her. In March 2017, after 20 years in the New Age world, Laura cried out to God. A loving presence met her instantly. She was delivered from the spirit of seduction in a single miraculous moment, her first true spiritual awakening. It changed her forever. In September 2023, the strongest spiritual attack of her life hit. An intense, hours-long battle with suicidal thoughts and the devil himself. She fought for her life in the middle of the night, saying goodbye to her beloved cat, searching for fentanyl, yet she won. She sought out a shaman for soul retrieval and reclaimed 2 precious fragments, her 2-year-old self who had lost hope and faith, and her 8-year-old self who had lost her voice. 3 profound sessions later, the pieces began to fit. The spiritual warfare intensified. The stronger she became, the harder the attacks, and her mother's abuse raged. But Laura refused to break. And today, Laura stands as a living miracle. She's no longer the invisible child, the silent scapegoat, the Hollywood prisoner, or the woman fighting demons in the dark. She's a warrior of light who has walked through hell and returned with fire in her veins. She's turned every betrayal, every ignored cry, every shattered fragment of self into fuel for something greater. As a survivor and a fierce survivor advocate, Laura now speaks today for every child who was never believed, every woman told to stay quiet, every soul who was told their pain was too much. She refuses to let her story stay buried so others can stay comfortable. Through her courage, she dismantles the very cycles that try to destroy her. Scapegoating, generational silence, spiritual warfare, and the lie that trauma defies you. Laura's life is living proof that darkness does not get the final word. From the bathtub terror at 8 to the soul retrieval victory in her 40s, she has walked through fire, emerged glowing, and now extends her hand to every other survivor still finding their way out. She is hope with lipstick on. She is the voice that was stolen and now roars. She is the proof that no matter how deep the pit, how cruel the family, how demonic the opposition, a woman anchored in God and in her own reclaimed truth can rise, radiant, unstoppable, and utterly awe-inspiring. Laura is not just a survivor. She is the revolution the world has been waiting for, and her story has only just begun. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, walking miracle, woman of God, cycle breaker, fierce survivor advocate, Hollywood insider, overcomer and thriver, inspiration, warrioress, and the brightest light in the darkness, the one, the only, Laura. Laura, it is such an honor to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Emma. You're making me cry.
So happy to find
soon for the tears.
We've been talking for a little bit and have had just some amazing conversations. And despite different obstacles of identity and any type of, obstacle that has tried to get in your path, you found a way to disclose that is safe for you. And I think it's really, respectable and admirable. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that watch today that find inspiration from the courage of you coming forward in this way. For people watching, I've had a few guests on over the years, actually many who have chosen to be anonymous in one form or another. And I'm introducing a new way to do it where we blur faces out instead of just have a black screen. And I'm really excited to offer this today with Laura as well, as the other survivor who did it a couple weeks ago on the show. So Laura, I'm just really honored to have you on today and just think that you're incredible. You have a story that needs to be heard. And when you had told me how long you've kept it inside, I'm just thinking what a relief it's going to be today to finally get that out and to allow it to be heard from people who have the ears to hear and eyes to see, and people that just desperately need to hear it today. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. I am just really grateful and excited to hear more about you and to get to know you more than I already have. But one thing that people get misconstrued is that abuse tends to be very randomly go out and hurt a child or hurt a person. And one thing that's not talked about enough is the background of what happens to a lot of these adults before they become adults and end up becoming perpetrators themselves. So I thought I'd give you the opportunity to share any history that might be important related to your story with your abusers, or anything that generationally that happened before you were born and put into the positions that you were.
Yeah, well, it took me a very long time to piece everything together. In hindsight now, I know my mother was a victim of sexual abuse. I think it's very, very, very repressed in her. My father had a very abusive upbringing as well. I don't believe sexual abuse, but emotional. I think there was some physical abuse. So there was a lot of trauma, and I believe that I took on both sides of their trauma. I'm the first girl. My mother had my brother when she was, I think, 20. Yeah, she got married at 18, had him at 20. I was born 18 months later, so I was the first girl. I'm a spitting image of my mother, which did not help me at all, because I was the target of her abuse. And then I have twins under me, almost 2 years to the day. Their birthday is the day before mine, so they are a boy and a girl. So there's 4 of us, making me like the middle child as well. My father was born in Italy, so he migrated to Canada. He was a very angry man. He was a workaholic. He was never home. Mother worked full-time as well, so her parents pretty much raised us. My mother had a sister and a brother. They're alive. And her sister's husband, so my uncle, the one that molested me, he was the second father. He was the father we didn't have. So he pretty much raised us, and he was in our life, I think, since I was a baby. So he had access to me, to all of us. So not having my real father in my life, and then being kind of like given away to my uncle, like in a sense of my aunt, like my mom's sister, was like a mother to us as well, and we spent so much time with them growing up.
Oh,
um, so all I can remember, I don't have very many memories from childhood. They're very fragmented. um, I just remember feeling the feelings I felt, and I remember being 4 years old. So much trauma happened because I lived my whole life remembering the feelings, but there's no memories to go with the feelings. So what the hell happened to me that I had those feelings of deep, like feeling very invisible, unimportant, not worthy, alone. And I just lived in my inner darkness. I knew I was surrounded. I think as a child, I knew I was surrounded by evil. And my mother was one of those evil people. I don't have memories of the way my mother treated me growing up. I just have one memory of about I was really young. I wasn't at a makeup stage yet. So it was like 10, 11 years old. And this is the only one of the only memories I have of childhood and of my mother. We were getting And I'm in my childhood house right now. Like, this is the childhood home that I grew up in. So this is where all my trauma happened. And I don't remember,
oh my
like,
God.
yeah, it's like, I don't remember anything. I just remember I was standing near the front door downstairs in the hallway. We were getting ready to go out. And all of a sudden, my mother looks at me and she's like, go put on some lipstick. And in my mind, I was like, my mommy thinks I'm ugly without lipstick. And I remember, like, I can see myself walking up the stairs and I'm traumatized. And that was it. I became obsessed with lipstick. You would not see me without lipstick on. Um, and it's interesting because you never caught my mother without wearing lipstick. And that's the first conscious lie that I believed about myself. I realize that moment when she told me I needed lipstick. That's the first conscious lie that I remember believing. Um, so my mother was very, um, well, I felt obligated. I took on my mother's energy and I felt obligated to like clean the house for her and do the laundry like really young because she worked full time and she has 4 children. So I have to like do these things for my mom. So like the parentification was there like very early on. Um, it's interesting because there's two events that she has loved to talk about, and I do not remember these at all, but they were very traumatic. And I don't even know why she loved talking about them. But the one event she always would talk about is the day she packed up us kids. We were really young. My older brother was 4, and I guess I was 2, and the twins were, babies. And because my father was never around, so in a, I guess, a fit of like feeling abandoned and alone, she packed us all up in the car and she started driving away. But then she realized she had nowhere to go. And she has relayed this story several times in my like the past couple of years. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I was a, I was like 2. How traumatic was that for me?
Mhm.
And I don't remember that. And there's another event that happened, and she loves talking about this event, and I don't know why, because I guess no one ever really questioned her about it. We were really young, and this happened downstairs in the family room. And she said one day she whipped a stuffed animal that had a musical one where you wind it up, has the metal on it, and it hit my older brother in the head. And so he had to get stitches. So she had to pack us all up and take us to the hospital. And she loved sharing that story. And it was only until 2023 when I really started to look at my behavior, like why I'm always on pins and needles, why I'm always like gauging people's like their faces and their tones, right? And I was like, where does this come from? And I was like, something's not right about that story my mom told us. Why did she whip the animal? And I went downstairs and I asked her straight out. And I was shocked that she told me the truth. I said, you were raging on us that day, weren't you? And she said, yes, I was. So that's the part of the story that she left out when she would share that story. Remember the time? Oh, I remember the time when I threw the stuff. And it was almost like she was getting off on saying it. It's very weird because you injured your son. And why did you like talking about that? It wasn't like, oh my God, I feel horrible that no, it wasn't like that. It was, she loved to share that story. And my mother's very sadistic. That's what I learned growing up, like watching that smirk come over her face when I was like bawling my eyes out in, pain from, something that she had just done to me. And, I always believed in God as a child. I just didn't know that the devil was real. So that's the interesting part. Yeah, I didn't know. And it's interesting because in religion class, because we went to a Catholic school, I was raised Catholic, but my parents were not religious. And whenever, religion class, reading the Bible, I would tune out. I didn't understand King James and I would tune out, but I always believed in God. I had an innate connection and I was always praying to my angels, and no one ever told me about angels or God. So that's interesting. And I believe the incident that happened when I was 8 years old was divine protection over me. The bathtub incident. So by this incident, me and my older brother had been spending weekends at my aunt and my uncle's house.
So he was married?
Yes, they're married. And I remember the house they lived at, it was Brampton, which it was like a 30-minute drive. Every Friday after she'd pick him up from work in the area, and then they'd come pick up me and my brother, and we would go to their house. And so it was on this one specific day where, so I have a fragment of the day. It's a summer day. We were playing, he always wanted to play games. So we were in the backyard. It's a hot summer day. We were having a water fight. So I remember that fragment. And then I remember being in the kitchen. My aunt ordered dinner. Her and my brother leaving the house to go pick up the dinner. I can see myself walking up the stairs because it was a triplex. And for some reason, I decided to go take a bath. And these are all questions I've always had. Like, why did I go take a bath when they were going to be home in like 15 minutes? Like there was no real time for a bath. Was I a bath girl? I don't know. Why didn't I take a shower? And then things happened really fast. I was in the bath, it wasn't long, maybe a couple minutes. And suddenly I heard the doorknob trying to be opened and I froze because I knew he wasn't supposed to be trying to come in here. And I knew something bad was going to happen to me. The fear, I was a shy, timid little girl. The fear that consumed me in that moment, I wanted to die. I remember I got the little washcloth and I had put it like on my chest, and I went into like a fetal position. I was just sitting in the bathtub. And the shower curtain was closed. And at first he just came in and he threw a glass of water over the shower curtain. And I had one part of my brain saying, oh, phew, he just wanted to get me back from the water fight earlier in the day. And the knowing part of my brain, no, something bad's going to happen to you. Something bad's going to happen to you. And he opens up the shower curtain and I just want to die. Like, that's just how I can explain it. I wanted to die. I knew I wasn't going to be able to survive what was going to happen to me. I just knew that. He kneels down, he gets the bar of soap and he starts washing me, and he goes to my butt first. And as soon as he touched my butt, I remembered, like, I disassociated. And my fear saved me in that moment, because I just looked at him dead in the eyes and I didn't have to say anything. And he said to me, you can't ever tell anyone this happened or I will get in a lot of trouble. So he knew I knew. And I don't remember anything else. That's that. So the second fragment is being alone with him in my grandmother's basement. So my mom's parents, they lived 2 blocks away. So we spent a lot of time there. It was very convenient for my mom to leave us there and pick us up. And I remember another cousin was over that day. We were all in the basement playing with my uncle, who was over playing with us. And then I can see him pacing with me, like he's holding me, but I'm like around 7 or 8. And see, for the longest time, Emma, I believed that happened first and then the bathtub. But I don't know. I don't know. And he's pacing, and I could sense his thoughts. Like he's trying to figure out something. And it just goes blank. So I don't know what happened. So after the bathtub incident, because me and my older brother, we were going there for at least a year straight. So the biggest red flag was when the following week I was unpacking my bags to go sleep over. And I was convinced my mom would ask me, what's the matter? And then I would have the right to tell her. Because as a child, he told me never to tell. And being the perceptive little girl that I was, there was no bond to my mother. I knew that very early on. That's why I chased her my whole life, for that bond. That's why I was the perfect little girl. I changed for her. I did everything for her to love me. And so I was convinced in my mind she would ask me. And see, I don't know what happened to I don't know. Did I tell her? I don't know. I just remember she ignored that first red flag. Then I told her I want to change doctors. I didn't want a male doctor anymore. That was a second sign. Something's wrong. Why doesn't my daughter want to see a male doctor anymore? And that went over her head. Then I was put on stress pills because I was petrified of men, my father and my brothers included. I thought every man was going to hurt me after that happened in the bathtub. So I lived in, I just lived in hell. I was like in my own inner darkness, and I just knew everyone around me was not paying attention to me, which is why I felt very trapped, and very alone and very scared. So I went on, I'm sorry, Emma?
Sorry, I was going to say, at the same time, I'm just trying to wrap my mind that you're so young, being neglected at home. You have other relatives that are moving in on you to abuse you and telling you to keep quiet. Meanwhile, you're also holding a parental figure in your home because your mom isn't home very much, and you're stepping up to take the responsibility of mom to your siblings a lot of the times. And while all this is happening in the background, you're still going to school, you're still having homework, you're still having to function, you're still having to be a normal child in this completely unnormal situation. And I wanted to just ask you, do you remember going to school or what that was like for you? Do you have memories of that part of your life? And I'm just curious how that affected you. Did you look at school like an escape and do really well? Or looking back, can you see symptoms that you were showing, whether it was you couldn't pay attention or you were really tired going to school or misbehaving? What was that life like for you? You were kind of living like a dual life in a way, so young.
Yeah. Um, I I don't really have memories. Like, um, I have one. I remember um being around 4, right? Being in kindergarten. And I remember being on the yellow school bus that would drop us off in front of my grandmother's house. And I remember having full-fledged anxiety because I have my art piece with me. Because what do you do when you're in kindergarten, right? You do paint, you do crafts. Like, what are you doing, right? And I had this anxiety that no one cared about my art. And I would before I went inside, I would sneak to the side of the house and I would throw my art away. And yeah, so that's how I lived. No one cares about me. Um, I don't. I remember being in like I think it was like the bathtub incident. I was around 8, so whatever grade I was in, 1 or 2. I remember I had a dentist appointment and I was puking my brains out. I was petrified to go to the dentist. There was a male dentist. My body was so symptomatic because I men are gonna hurt me. I'm scared of everybody. And all my, practitioners were males. Um, and I blocked this out for a very long time, but I used to get bladder infections as a child.
Oh my gosh.
And that's something that I just recently in the past like year or so remembered. And I'm like, why was I getting bladder infections? Like things just don't add up. Like, or they do. Because I guess in hindsight, I'm like, because I spent my whole life trying to figure myself out because I don't have memories. I just had questions about myself that I knew, like, why am I afraid of sex? Why do I have all this anxiety around sex? Why am I always disassociated? Like, why can't I stay in my body? Why can't I enjoy sex? Why do I hate sex? Like the whys, but no one would know that about me. Um, and I was very promiscuous. Like I was very promiscuous. Um, growing well, probably later on in my 30s, I'd say. Yeah. Um, and even my mother, like she would say to me, "Ah, I read your journals." And she would like shame me. And I'm like, well, first of all, I didn't have sex till I was 18. And secondly, see, I didn't know that she was putting her shame on me because the interesting thing about my mom, and it took me like up until the past 3 years to kind of connect this dot. Growing up, we never heard about my mom's life, ever. We heard about my father. It was always about my father, his horrible mother that he was raised by. Oh, you don't know what your father went through, but I never heard about my mother. Nothing. She wouldn't talk about, oh, I remember when I was a child. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Never heard nothing. And then I was like, wait a second, that's really weird. Never heard about my mom, her stories growing up. Um, so I'm just ignored. And that takes me into like um the next traumatic event is, and I hate male attention on me. Like I hate it. I live in anxiety. If I'm walking down the street and there's men on the street, I'm in anxiety. Like I was in constant anxiety. And then I did everything to dodge my uncle, like everything to dodge him. And I remember I have one fragment memory where I ended up going shopping with him. Like there's a mall 5 minutes from our house. And I remember he bought me this white tank top with these blue striped shorts that were like knee length that had a drawstring. And I remember it was like a, a shut up kind of present, right? Like, I could feel the energy behind it. And that's why I hated seeing that outfit. Because I knew what it represented. He knew he got away with it. He knew he got away with it. And I knew I wasn't, I knew I didn't have a mother. So I knew intuitively I wasn't safe to go to my mother to even tell her what happened.
Right.
Because when children are safe in their home, there are no secrets. So then
And your mother was also abusive to you. Was she physically abusive, emotionally?
No, not physically. The emotional neglect, oh man, just being ignored. But again, not having the memories.
Right. But you can also tell maybe some jealousy too. She's commenting when you're 10 years old about lipstick, and it's almost like she's projecting her insecurities onto you, her oldest child, who's a girl,
Well,
very pretty at such a young age.
Well, I wanted to model and act my whole life, right? I was very creative. I loved the camera. Like when the camera, I was like, I knew I was meant to be in front of the camera. That's all I knew. Like I didn't know many things. I just knew I loved the camera. I would always impersonate Whitney Houston, and I would like make my siblings, like I would do silly shit and I'd make them laugh. And I think that was like my outlet. But I was also like, that's also my personality. Like I'm really silly and quirky. So I remember like that side of me, which wasn't allowed to come out. And then wanting to act and model, and my mother like totally not supportive of that at all. And everything I wanted to do, she'd say was hard. It was hard. And so up until like 3 years ago, I did not believe I could do anything. Even my art, like the art that I started to do, that's because I found my self-esteem again. And I was like, wow, like I'm really creative. I forgot how creative I was because everything got blocked, like blocked, majorly blocked, and I wasn't allowed to be me. So you have to shut down who you are. And I'm a very expressive, sensitive girl. And I was very, 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 I understand now, I was very psychic and I knew things, and I knew I was just trapped in complete darkness, and my uncle was around. And I have no other memories of being at that house after the bathtub incident. And so let's fast forward. My grandfather, how old am I? When I was 18, few guys, I was in high school, a few guys transferred from one school to another. And this was like a really, really something very traumatic I went through. I started dating one of the guys, this Italian guy, Achille, but it was really weird. Like he came into my life and then he took over my life. And again, I felt trapped in a situation that I don't want to be in. And a recurring dream I had as a child was being like I had been kidnapped, and like I'm running on the street, like I'm running home, like I escaped. But like there's like a vacuum sucking me in, like I can't move. Like that was a recurring dream. So the feeling of just feeling trapped. And another vivid memory I have of childhood is sitting at the dinner table one day, looking at my family members and thinking in my head, who are these people? Like there was no connection to anybody. My only saving grace was my mother telling me And I don't even know why she would tell me this, because she didn't like when I had attention, but she would tell me this all the time. You know, Laura, your father loves all of you, but he has a special place in his heart for you. When I say your name, he lights up. And I held on to those words because I felt no love. Like I felt like I was so starved of love. And so hearing my mother say that, even though I knew my father loved me, I knew my mother hated me.
How often did you see your father as a child or hear from him? Was it very sparse?
Well, my father worked 2 jobs. He worked
Okay,
one full-time job, and then he did hardwood floors on the side. So he would come home late at night.
I
We
see.
never saw him. The way I knew my father loved me was when I asked my father, Dad, can I have $5 to go to McDonald's at lunch tomorrow? And even asking, okay, that's another thing too. My voice was so stolen. I don't know what happened, but my voice was stolen very young. I could never ask for what I wanted, even asking my father, who never said no to us. My father was an angry man. He, I think, was very jealous of our childhood as well. I just kind of came to understand this. He didn't want us doing anything because he didn't get to do anything. So he was always like, why do you got to go and sleep over? You have a TV here, you have a bed here. Why do you got to do that? Right? It was always this anger. My mother, who was born here in Canada, was the one that let us have a childhood. So we could go to parties, we could go to the movies, right? We could do things with our friends. Um, so I was very grateful in that aspect, because if it was up to my dad, we would have been holed up in this house, not being able to do anything. But when we asked for something, Dad, can you buy me ketchup chips? He'd be like, oh, he would cause a fuss, but then he'd come home and buy 4 different brands. Even if I like salt and vinegar, I like ketchup, I like plain, he would buy anything we wanted, he would buy us. So that's how I knew my father loved me. And that's the only way I knew my father loved me. I never had a conversation with my father. My father is a very repressed man, very repressed as well. Very stuck in, I think, a lot of his own post-traumatic stress. And but I knew my father loved me. Like I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it. Love is you feel it. Like when someone is happy to see you, and when and so I think that's really what got me through my childhood, is knowing that I have one source of something. Because if it was both parents that I knew hated me, I don't know if I would have survived that. um and so I'm dating this Italian guy. He basically shows up at my house one day. I don't even tell him where I live, and he just shows up. My grandparents come over for dinner, and my grandmother's like, some young man is here. We had gone on one date the week prior, and I was like, he wouldn't just show up here. He doesn't even know where I live. Well, he showed up, and he went right to the basement. He did not introduce himself, nothing. And he came in my life, and then I was trapped for 18 months in this relationship. I hated every minute of it. My mother thought he was Prince Charming. Little do I know, my mother's living vicariously through me. So when he's over, she loves the attention. Like, little do I know, that's what's happening.
What?
I am miserable. Little do I know, he's slowly like isolating me and taking my friends away from me. And I had one friend was like, Laura, like when I see Akile in the hallways, oh no, he gives me that look of death. And I go, really? No, he doesn't, right? And so before I knew it, I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't do anything. I was in such a controlled, abusive relationship. And my mother is planning my wedding with this guy. And as a people pleaser, and as someone that's starving for my mom's attention and validation, and I want her to tell me because I was always complaining to her that I was unhappy in this relationship because I couldn't do anything. He took everything away from me and then controlled my every move. Oh, but he loves you. He loves you. But I'm like, Mom, like, I have to study and he wants to come over. Well, call him and tell him to come over and I'll keep him company. I'm like, you'll keep him company. So my mother wasn't getting attention from my father. And I can see, like, was my boyfriend was a source of attention for her. And so I think those were my first suicidal thoughts when I was with him. I didn't know how I was going to have the courage to get out of that relationship because I was so scared to disappoint my mother because she had programmed me. Like, I have to make her happy. I have to be who she wants me to be. Instead of saying, Laura, if you're not happy, leave him. No. It was always, oh, Laura, he loves you. He loves you. So why was she, why wasn't she supportive of me being happy?
You could tell that you had been through, maybe you didn't know exactly, but these types of people who do this to women and know that they can get away with it, they purposely choose women that are very empathetic, that are people pleasers, that have abuse in their past, because they know that they're already easier to control, and you had already had your voice taken away at such a young age. You had been, even molested and nobody listened to you. Nobody cared. You were going through trauma at home. You were trying to be a parent. I mean, you've explained all this that you're going through as a child. And so if that stuff isn't resolved, then these, people come in that have these abusive tendencies and they're like vultures to somebody who is going through trauma and hasn't, been able to process and be safe from it. And they kind of like leech on it. It sounds like this guy did that with you. He saw you as like an easy prey. You're wanting love and affection and, a happily ever after and just really wanting what you were denied as a child. And then this guy swoops in and you're probably just so excited. And meanwhile, he's looking at you like somebody that he can manipulate and control, just like the same patterning that you had as a child.
Actually, I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. He just showed up my house and then got trapped in this relationship that I didn't want to be in. And that's why it was so hard, because I didn't want to disappoint my mother because she thought God. So it was, if it wasn't for that, if my mother had said to me from the first time I said, I'm not happy, Laura, you're not happy, you leave. Had she said those words to me, he would have been gone. But because I heard, oh, he loves you, he just wants to be with you. I'm miserable telling you I'm not happy. And you're telling me this is love. And you're supporting me to stay in this. That's like very twisted. And then what was her motivation? Like, what was her motivation? Which took me a long time to piece together. Like, oh, she loved when he was coming over because she was getting off on it. Because she was so empty and miserable. And because she didn't have a husband. My father wasn't around. But she chose the man that, well, let me also say this. My mother was 12 when she met my father, and he's 8 years older.
Oh, wow.
And then I realized, so my father's a pedophile, and my mother seduced my father. Yeah. And when she told me that in like 2023, 2024, oh man, that's when I was like, I kind of went through something, because I was like, well, no wonder I've been surrounded by these predators. My father was dating a 12-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Like, he was what, 20? 19? But they justify it. Oh, back in those days. back in those days, it was normal. Oh, pedophilia was normal back in those days. Oh, okay. But they would never admit that it was like pedophilia or no. So I just, that really rocked me when she said that.
Well,
So
especially because you like, he was like your source of love, you know, growing up, like somebody that like gave you comfort. That has to be like soul shattering to be like, wait, he wasn't this like amazing person that I thought he was growing up.
well, my father is a very repressed man. My mother
Right.
controls him. Like she says jump, he says how high.
It's like
Like,
a submissive personality.
yeah, there's no manhood. Like, and through like healing my trauma and learning about trauma, then I look at everyone else around me and I'm like, oh, I see how it's manifesting, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I would feel so much guilt for my father. Oh, my poor father, you know, and my heart, like every time he would like my mother loved to tell the story. He was like 5 years old and he was out working, and I don't know, a family member saw him and thought he was doing something he shouldn't have been doing, and they slapped him. Like, I took on all their crap, like all their crap. But how could I not be compassionate towards that? He was a child, right? But it was just the constant growing up, even to this day. He's it's like he couldn't ever get outside of his own trauma, but I can't blame him. Like, what tools did he have? Um, that generation, he's an Italian immigrant, you know, like I don't, you know, I look at my mother because my mother controlled what my father knew about our life. Put it that way. She
Mm.
controlled everything. She told him what she wanted to tell him, and then she didn't tell him the things that he should have known. And one thing he should have known that he didn't know. Um, so I have this jealous, controlling guy. I'm suicidal. I'm thinking he's going to put a ring on my finger. I'm never going to have the courage to leave because I can't disappoint my mother. So I have this, I'm seeing my future and I'm like, I'd rather die. I'd rather die than get stuck in this. And I remember my first part-time job had to stock the shelves, and I would have to go on the ladder and get the forks and the knives. And I remember so many times I was standing on top of that ladder looking down, and I was like, I could just fall. Like, I could just fall. Like, I was 19 years old, and that's how trapped I felt because I can't disappoint my mother. Because then I would have to hear my mother, oh, Laura, like I didn't want to hear that because I've already been fed so much, um like without her saying the words. I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm too much, I'm not enough, like all this mixed messaging. So my grandfather dies when I am 19. My grandfather was the only person in this family that showed me any sort of love. So he went into the hospital one day and he did not come out. He was dead 3 weeks later with a progressed lung disease that we didn't even know he had. My world is rocked. I don't have my grandfather anymore. And so the following year, we go on vacation. I don't want my jealous boyfriend to come. He ends up coming on his own volition. And I think my mother told him, actually, because I never invited him on this vacation. He came on the prior vacation, the year prior, and he literally, Emma, sat in the hotel room staring at me out the window while I had fun with my family in the pool on my vacation. And my family would look at me and say, Laura, what's wrong with your boyfriend? And I was like mortified. So that's the level of control. I could not have fun. And so my grandfather passes. We end up going on vacation still. And it's on that vacation that my boyfriend is like, he is like I didn't know this, but he was on drugs, and he's just erratic, and he's trying to like act as if we're on a solo vacation. I didn't even invite him. He just showed up, and it took me years to figure out, how did he even know? I didn't tell him because I did not want him on that vacation because of what I went through on the vacation with him the year prior. And so what happened was, a family friend was on that vacation, and there were a bunch of us on that vacation. My two brothers, my brother's girlfriend at the time, who is his wife now, and then my younger brother brought a friend. So my sister. So there was a few of us. So one night, my boyfriend wanted to go for a walk. So little did I know, my mom and the family friend were on the balcony, and we were right on the ocean. So the hotel overlooked the ocean. So little do I know, they're standing on the balcony so they can see us. So we start walking, and a cat comes, and I love cats. So I'm going to play with the cat. And he's getting all upset, and he's jealous because I'm giving attention to the cat. Like, that's what I'm talking about. So he comes to the cat, and he tries to kick it. So the cat goes across the street to the beach. And in my head, I was like, yeah, fucker. Okay. So I go follow the cat across the street. And he was losing control of me in this moment. So he grabbed me by my shoulders. And when he grabbed me by my shoulders, I was like, no, you're not, this is not happening. So I ran upstairs, not knowing that my mother and the family friend just witnessed this. The family friend looked at me and said, Laura, no. So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, someone saw what happened. Someone's not agreeing with this. Someone's going to save me from this man, because my mother just thinks he's the most amazing guy. And so I knew that was my moment. Laura, this is it. It's now or never. So I told him, it's over. Like, when we get back, we're done. And he did everything that night to try to coerce me back. And I was like, Laura, if you go back into this, you're not going to come out. And the next day I go for a walk with my mom on the boardwalk. And she says, don't stay with him for me if you're unhappy. Emma, it took me up until a few years ago to piece that together. The only reason she said that to me was because the family friend saw what happened, and I know said something to my mother. So then my mother has to always act like she's the hero in my life.
Oh my gosh.
And has to take, like, she's finally giving me permission if you're not happy. But for 18 months, I was telling you, Mom, and all she did was reinforce this abusive behavior. And in that one moment, and only because the family friend saw, and that was my saving grace, I came back, it was done. He had been smearing all these lies about me, which I started hearing about. And when I broke up with him, I got life back. And this is where my life really takes a dark turn, because the two people I wanted to reconnect to were my uncle's children. He had two children, and they were my world growing up. I was so close to these kids. I raised these kids. And by this time, they live around the corner. So like, it was like my parents' house, my grandparents' house, and them in a triangle. And to this day, they still live at that house, which is around the corner. And so because I want to reconnect to my cousins who were my everything, I go back to that house. And you have to understand, Emma, like, there were moments of my life where I did not remember the bathtub. Then there were moments where I would wake up and I'd be like, I think something bad happened to me. It was like I was so disassociated, and it was the memories weren't always there, which I understand is normal. And so my childhood is just, it's shoved, it's like compartmentalized, it's like, it's just pushed down. And then because I reconnect to his children, he re-enters my life. And little do I know, he's grooming me. So I'm thinking, so the memories, they're like back there. But when you come from being starved of love from your mother, especially as a female, you know, the most important relationship is the same-sex parent to the child. I don't have a father around. And then I have my uncle who plays the role very well, very concerned, wants to know about my life, very supportive, right? So I used to think I have the best of both worlds. I have my real father who I know loves me, but then I have the emotional father that I never had, that I so desperately need. And for 2 years.
Did he abuse his own kids too, or have those same weird tendencies? Do you know, or have they not
Yes,
spoken out about it?
yes, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know I was being groomed, and we did everything together. We went rollerblading, we went to the movies, we went to lunch. He was always with me, Emma. And I'm just thinking, I know I'm trapped and I know I'm alone. I have nowhere to go. So starved for love. And this is the only attention I'm getting. Like, my mother never wanted to do things with me. My mother wasn't like, hey, Laura, my mother was doing things with everybody else but her daughter. Oh, and when my grandfather died, this wasn't intended, but I can see how God set up the situation for me. So when my grandfather died, my younger brother was staying with my grandmother while he was in the hospital. Then they had to go back to school, and I wasn't starting school till October because I was going to school for aesthetics. So I started staying with my grandmother. I'd go over at night, spend the night, wake up, come back home. She only lived 2 blocks away. It was not a big deal. So I had been doing that for about 2 years. My uncle groomed me for two years. And then finally, maybe 6 months into that, I was like, I have a whole house to myself. So I moved in with my grandmother. And if I didn't live with my grandmother for what was going to happen in my life, I wouldn't have survived living under my mother's roof for half of my life. Because what happened was, so on a typical Monday, so he coordinated his schedule to have Mondays off. I was an esthetician. I had Mondays off. Every Monday we would go to the movies and we would go to lunch at the local mall. We did that every Monday for 2 years, Emma, okay? Everyone around me saw how much time he spent with me, and no one ever said a damn word. Little did I know, my grandmother's sister, who was my godmother, every Monday, she came to visit my grandmother. So sometimes I would catch her as I was leaving, or sometimes I was already gone. But I didn't know the conversations my godmother was having with my grandmother. I would learn this years later from my godmother. She had red flags about, why is Danny spending so much time with Laura? But my grandmother would say, oh, it's her uncle. He loves her. I don't know that's happening. I don't know I'm being groomed. So just after my 21st birthday, we're having lunch one day, and he knows he's safe enough, and he comes out, starts talking like sexually to me. He starts asking me very personal sexual questions. And I was so disassociated already. Like, as soon as he went sexual, I just like out of my body. And I'm just like, I'm not there. And in my mind, I'm like, no, this is not happening. This is not happening, right? So I'm trying to revert the conversation, right? And he keeps bringing it back, sexual. And after lunch, we were going to go watch a movie. He loved movies. So we go to the theater, which is in the mall, and we're looking at the titles of the movies. And for some reason, he doesn't want to watch a movie. He wants to keep talking because we're having such a great conversation. So we walk around the mall. I don't even remember walking around the mall. He says to me at one point, since you're single, how do you please yourself? We got to get you a toy. I'm thinking he's I'm thinking he's joking, Emma. He takes me into, I think it was called the It store, and it had like all party stuff, and then there was a sex section. So he takes me to the store and he goes right for the dildos. And in my mind, I'm like, this is not happening. This is not happening. This is not happening. Like I'm saying it, I'm like, this is not happening to me. And I remember how excited he was. And he's like, which one do you want? And I was like, I don't want one. He's like, oh yeah, yes you do. Yes, you do. Emma, he's buying this dildo and I'm yelling at him. I don't want it. Don't worry, don't worry. So I bought a wallet at some point. I don't remember buying the wallet. He doesn't drive. So we're driving, we leave the mall. And in the car, he opens up this dildo and he starts like playing with it and he's trying to get a reaction from me. And I remember looking over at him and I remember just like looking at the devil. And I was like, I'm so fucked because I am frozen. I am frozen the way I was in the bathtub, frozen. I can't speak. I'm just frozen. I have to go along because you have to survive. I don't know what to do. So we get in his driveway and I just want to drop him off. And he's like, well, aren't you going to come inside? And see, Emma, I lived in such dread. Like I lived in such dread. And I did not want to go. I didn't want to feel the dread I lived in. So in my mind, if I said no to him, he's going to know something's wrong. And I can't let him know something's wrong. That's how my brain was. So I went inside. I sat at the table with my new wallet that I don't remember buying. And I was just, taking things out of my old wallet and my new wallet. And he's pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, he comes over with, he bought this massage oil flavored that's like, you can lick it off, right? Edible. And it's wintertime. My birthday's in January. I'm wearing a turtleneck covered head to toe. And he comes over to me and he's like, you want to try it? And I'm just in my mind, I'm like, somebody save me, somebody save me, somebody save me. Because the naive girl in me, Emma, I had no idea the reason why he wanted me to go inside was because of his toys. And that was not in my mind at all. And here I'm stuck with him. And I don't know what to do because I'm frozen. So I just pull up my sleeve of my turtleneck, like on my wrist. And I'm like, and he puts some on and he licks it off and I just want to die. And he's like, where else? And he puts some on my neck. He pulls down my turtleneck and he puts some on my neck and he licks it off. And I'm just like, so I go to the washroom to wash it off and I'm done. Like I'm leaving. He comes out of his bedroom. He's like, where are you going? I go, I'm going home. He goes, oh, you're such a party pooper. And that was his favorite classic line. You're such a party pooper. And so I'm putting my boots on. He goes to his bedroom. He comes back with pornographic magazines and he starts showing me these pictures. And he's trying to get me lured into his sick fantasies. And in my mind, I'm like, this is not happening to me. Like my whole world is crumbling. My mother and her sister like this. We saw them every day. They were like, they lived around the corner. We were so ingrained with them. And I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm witnessing. So I go home to my grandmother's house where I'm living. I go in my room. I'm just not happening to me. And then he calls, and my grandmother yells for me to get the phone because it's my uncle on the phone. And I'm like, what does he want? And I pick up the phone, and he's all stuttering, and he's nervous, and he's like, I was just wondering if you and your new toy want to experiment with me. And this is actually when I spoke, and I'm surprised because like I had no voice, but I said no. He's like, well, why not? I said, because you're my aunt's husband, and this is wrong. Well, just think about it. Think about it. We can talk about it next week. And in my mind, I'm thinking, next week? He thinks I'm going to see him next week. Like, he's so delusional. So then what happens is all my childhood anger towards my mother, just the rage for ignoring me, because I am with the same man that's groomed me. And now here I am with more trauma. And because I was very moody as a child. After that happened, and I knew my mother was ignoring me, I was very moody because I knew she was blatantly ignoring me. And so what happened was I couldn't tell my mother why I was mad at her. So I would just let her know that I was pissed at her. And I was a wreck that week. I told my sister at some point, and then conveniently, my father is in the hospital during this time for his gallbladder. So the following Monday, when I'm supposed to be going for lunch the way I normally would have, which is not happening, I go for a walk around, like I just want to go for a walk. I was really like athletic and sporty, right? And who do I see walking towards me down the street? I see my uncle coming. And I just start freaking out inside. And I don't know how to handle this because he still doesn't know there's something wrong. So he walks right up to me. He's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, don't talk to me. He's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, don't talk to me. Finally, he realized there's a problem. I, for the longest time, thought he was walking to the mall because you can walk to the mall. I live behind a huge park, and there's an entrance, like there's a pathway that can literally take you, like you can walk through the entrance and then you'll cross the highway and you can walk to the mall. I thought he was walking to the mall, but he was not on the street that takes you to the mall. His daughter was at my grandmother's house that day. She was watching her. I don't know if she was homesick. And it took me so long to figure this out. I don't know where he was going or what he was doing, but he went home and he called my grandmother and told my grandmother to get ready to come pick up his daughter because he was coming to pick her up. I didn't know why he was coming to pick her up because he's out walking, going wherever. I don't know what the hell he's doing. And she's fine at my grandmother's house. So that night, the Monday, so during the week, my mother is like, she wants to strangle me because she doesn't know what's wrong with me because I'm giving her very clear signs that I'm angry with her. But the words would always get stuck here because I knew my mother didn't give a rat's ass about me. So what am I going to do? Tell you what happened? I already have lived a whole life, half a life. So when I go visit her the Monday, my dad's in the hospital. I don't remember. I don't think anyone was home. I don't think my sister was home. Don't think the boys were home. And this is how my mother loved to play these mind games with me. So as soon as I get here, she's like, oh, what's the matter with you? You've been giving me attitude all week long. And then she says, like so nonchalantly, oh, I know what happened. Your sister told me. Just like that. And it took me years to dissect this event here because this event was, this was like so traumatizing the way she treated me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is it. This is the moment of truth. I'm going to sit my mother down. I'm going to tell her everything that happened. I'm going to finally tell my mother what happened now. I'm going to tell her what happened when I was a kid. She's going to support me. She's going to be there. This is my fantasizing in my mind. So I sit her down on the basement couch and I tell her about the recent events, everything that happened. What does she say to me? I told you hung out with him too much. I'm like, you told me I hung out with him too much? So she put the blame on me. She didn't care what he did, but she never did. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, wait till I tell her what happened when I was a little girl. Now, then she's going to care about me, right? Then she's going to love me. So then I tell her, I got to tell you what happened when I was little. Well, why didn't you tell me when you were a little girl? And I said, for this exact moment of how you're treating me right now, because I knew I couldn't tell you. And so that's how my mother treated me. And that's all I got. I got blamed. And I was already blaming myself because I felt like a complete idiot for trusting a man that had already hurt me in the past. So I was already, the self-blame, it was already there. And so basically my mother wanted to just shut up about it, pretend it didn't happen, forgive him and move on. And that's not the girl I was. I might have been really shy and timid and controllable and manipulated, but this subject matter was something that I was not going to compromise on. And so, and my rage was like building because she just wanted to pretend nothing was wrong. Nothing happened. And about 3 weeks later, my rage was going to kill me. And I said to her, I need to confront him. So set up a meeting with your sister and him. So the meeting was set. And my mother comes over to pick me up that night. I'm thinking she's all for it. Oh, Laura, why do you got to do this? Why do you got to do this? Right. And she starts in on me. And so the red flag was already there that this woman doesn't have my back. But I have no idea my mother is a narcissist. I have no idea my mother is a psychopath. I have no idea my mother's evil. I have no idea what she's really telling me. Like, I have no idea. So I drive, we get to the house, which was just around the corner, and she goes in the kitchen. I go into the living room where one of my cousins was. I can't remember which one. One was in the basement. He's playing sick. My uncle, he's sick. At some point, he makes his way from the bedroom to the kitchen. And suddenly I hear, he says something, and I hear my mother say, and these are the only words my mother says, well, Laura has a different side of the story. And as soon as I heard her say that, I just shot up, Emma, and I walked into that kitchen. I don't know where I got this courage from, because after that moment, I never really had that courage. But I knew I had to stand up for myself, and I needed answers for myself because my mother was not going to do it. And I had to live with myself. And so it was a face-off. My mother was sitting facing like this direction. My aunt was facing me. So he's behind her standing up, and it was a face-off. And I just started with the questions on the recent events. Explain the dildo, explain the massage cream, explain everything. I wanted answers. And he just deflected everything and kept saying to me, well, how old are you? How old are you? And I didn't know what he was doing in that moment. I didn't know he was trying to make me feel like I was involved in something that I was never involved in, like participating in something, because nothing happened. And so I'm getting nowhere with him. And my mother's silent. My aunt is silent. And I don't know what comes first. I think at one point, because I was relentless, I was there for answers and I wasn't leaving. And he had never seen that side of me. So at one point he goes behind my aunt and he hugs her and he says, well, she's on my side, with that smirk of his. And I'm waiting for my mom to say, I'm on my daughter's side. But those words don't come. She leaves me standing in the middle of that kitchen. And that moment, that was the moment that my mother showed me everything. And that was the moment that I died. Like, that was the trauma right there. When I gave her an opportunity to stand up for me, and she remained silent. So then I looked at him in his face and I said, I remember what happened when I was a little girl. And well, let me tell you, the rage that overcame him, and he blew up like a balloon, Emma. And he points his finger at me and he goes, you better get the fuck out of my house before I pick you up by your throat and I fucking throw you out. And I was like, please touch me so I have an excuse to get you in jail. That's all that I'm thinking, because you are a pedophile. And I need a reason to call the police. So my mother gets up and she's like, okay, Laura, let's go. And I'm like, go where? I came here for answers. But little did I know, I would find out years later, my mother made an agreement with my aunt not to get involved. And the only reason I found that out was because that night tormented me. I didn't understand how my mother could stay silent and not have my back. It replayed and it replayed and it replayed. And I would be fine for a while and then the rage would hit me. And then I would be fine for months and the rage. So I was always fighting with my mom over that night. I couldn't understand it. And then one day, maybe in 2014, she was at my apartment and we were fighting. And I brought that up again. And I said, how could you do that to me? Why were you silent? And finally, she admitted to me, because I find with narcissists, it's like they love to keep you in torture. And then it's like, you've been in torture long enough. And let me give you the answer that will actually set you free. And she said to me, I made an agreement with your aunt not to get involved. And literally, Emma, I was like, well, I can cross that off my questions. And now I can stop thinking about it because that's my answer right there. She made an agreement not to get involved. And then my aunt, either before that night or after, I don't remember, she came to pick up the kids one day because they would go to my grandmother's after school. And she's like, can I talk to you? So she sits me down on my bed and she says to me, I don't know why things happen in life, but they happen for a reason. If it wasn't for my 2 kids, I would have killed myself. But this has made my marriage better than ever. She had just painted my walls a coat of paint. We were supposed to do another coat job. That never happened. So every day I looked at my finished walls, I thought of those words, but I could not process them, Emma. I could not even process, I hadn't even processed my childhood or any of the things I'd been through. And then the situation with the current situation, I couldn't process that. And I had nobody. I had nobody. So I had to compartmentalize everything and I had to keep going. So I would process that. I think 2014, 2015, and those words and what they really meant. And so basically, little did I know that's when I became the scapegoat. Little did I know that my mother she had shared her own narrative, and I didn't know that was happening. I couldn't understand why no one supported me. That's what I couldn't understand. And about his daughter, yes, as soon as that happened to me, Emma, I literally went to the library and I got every single book I could on sexual abuse because I needed to understand. And that's when I understood her odd behaviors that I never understood. And then I knew that he was molesting her. And my pain and suffering came from knowing that she was being molested and no one gave a damn about those two children because it wasn't about me. I could have went on with my life, but every night I would go to bed feeling so guilty, knowing there is a child molester around the corner. My cousin is being molested. Everyone thinks I'm crazy for thinking that. My mother, oh, he would never touch his daughter. You're crazy. She'd love to call me crazy. And I was tormented. All my 20s, I would have recurring nightmares, sexual nightmares of my uncle. I would be like frozen in fear. I would wake up like yelling at God, like, why am I having these dreams? My only saving grace was I found a naturopath when I was around 21. She was a sexual abuse survivor, and she helped me. Like, she kept saying to me, Laura, all your issues are revolved around the sexual abuse. And so she sent me to like, she's the one that put, go see this psychologist and read this book. And she's all I had. She was like an angel in my life. She's all I had. And just like the fighting with my mom, no family support, everyone turned against me. And then I went to a girl I was working with. I was around, I think maybe 26 years old, 26, 19, 27, actually maybe 27-ish. Yeah. Her mother was a psychic. So I went to her mother, and she also did hypnotherapy. So I did hypnotherapy with her. And then 6 months later, I woke up one morning and I was like, oh, I feel strong enough. Like, I'm going to go report my uncle. My older brother initially, supported me, but he even gaslit me because he told me I couldn't call him a child molester, raged in my face. Can't call him a child molester. So what my mother, and I told my brother, like, face to face, what happened with he heard from my own mouth. It's not like my mother told him, I told him. And then, but see, my mother fully controlled my siblings, and I know how the narc works. Like, they triangulate, and she totally pitted him against me. And I didn't know this was happening though. I had to figure this out by the way he was treating me later on in life. So anyways, my mother, again, I gave my mother to step up, be here for me. Because she kept saying to me, oh, you won't let go of the past. You won't let go of the past. I was like, what past? My family don't support me. In my darkest time, my family doesn't support me. You don't have my back. So the day I was supposed to go report him, my mother came by my grandmother's house the night before, and she pleaded with me. Why do you have to do this? Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And I was so angry, Emma. I was so angry because I was giving her an opportunity, and that would have made up for everything. Little did I know she told my grandmother. So the next morning, I felt this really off energy with my grandmother. I couldn't really place it, but I knew something wasn't right. And then my grandmother comes in my face, pointing her finger. She basically said to me, if I go report him, I'm going to ruin her life, and I'm going to ruin my aunt's life. And I can't live under her house, under her roof anymore. And I stood right up to her. And that's when I saw where my mother got this from, because she blamed me. Why did you have to hang out with him so much? I was like, yeah, this is my fault. But I had done enough research, watching enough Dr. Phil shows, that I knew the victim gets blamed for it, shamed for it. So if I felt alone, I also knew that was a very normal situation to happen. So I knew I wasn't the only one that was going through that. It didn't make it any better, but I knew that. And so that's when I started renting in a basement apartment. And I have no self-esteem. Like, I have no self-esteem. So I lasted a couple months renting my own apartment, but money was running out and I was always struggling with money. I was always struggling with everything. And I was spending all my money trying to heal my life, not knowing that I'm like a victim of narcissistic abuse and being abused. So I moved back home. Something told me I have to go back home. So I had to come back with my parents. And not long after is when I was let out to Vancouver. That was 2008. And it was in 2008 that I was recruited by, I will say her name, Michelle. I'll just say her first name. Michelle recruits me. Actually, no, sorry, it wasn't Michelle. Jane. Jane recruits me. I get a Facebook message. Hey babes, you're beautiful. Are you a model? And that's how I unknowingly, I opened the door to, she didn't go by her full name, but she's the niece of a very powerful person in Hollywood. Little did I know they recruit you off of social media. So I'm living in Vancouver. I thought I was let out to Vancouver and never come back to Toronto. Nothing in Vancouver worked out. Everything went wrong. It was a really weird year. And I end up in Toronto. So I come back, parents, and then I'm in contact with Jane the whole time. And so when I'm in Vancouver, she keeps saying to me, I have a friend in Toronto and I owe him a favor, right? So they were like already like red flags, right? But I have nobody. Like, I am so alone in this world. So a little bit of like love and attention, like I'm like grabbing onto it. And there was just an instant connection with Jane. It was just like an instant connection. And so I'm living back in Toronto. 2011, I get my own apartment. And this is when Hollywood really enters my life, because now I'm living alone. I have my own privacy. And this is when the sex tapes start to happen. Jane puts me in touch with a woman named Sophie and a woman named Michelle. Michelle was somebody big in Hollywood. Sophie was like another recruiter, but you wouldn't know who she was. And because my reference was Jane, that's it. I was in with them. They knew that like Jane was my reference. And so it went from like they want modeling pics, and then it's like lingerie, and then it's nudes, and then making full-fledged sex tapes. And I don't know how I got here. And these were the people as a child that I knew were going to come into my life. Because as I mentioned to you, Emma, as a child, I just dreamed about being on the big screen. I knew I was going to be famous. I would tell my mom, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be famous. And she'd say, how do you know that? How do you know that? I say, I don't know, but I just know. And I can't tell you, Emma, how many years I would spend just like doing my signature, because I knew I was going to be famous. And the right people were going to come in my life to make me famous. And then It happened. But I just didn't know, like, what it really meant to, like, get that fame, right? And I hated the sex tapes. So her friend that she was telling me about that lived in Toronto, she knew him from living with him in LA. So he so for months and months, she had been harassing him to email me, to help me. So finally he gives in, and one day he messages me and he's like, Jane has been like on my ass for months, like trying to get me to connect with you, right? And he just gave up, right? So he's like, you know, she wants me to help you. And I guess he did this stuff before that she knew that he would help me make sex tapes because he did all the filming and all the editing. Here I am. I am, and I don't even know, Emma, that like being afraid of sex is like a symptom of sexual abuse. Like, I don't even know that. I just constantly was like very aware of my body, how disassociated I was, like how I hated sex. Even with good looking guys, I hated sex. So it was always like floating on the wall. But I felt like a sex slave. I felt like my body was just to be given to men like a smorgasbord and for you to do what you want. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know. That's why I say I was promiscuous, you know, because I didn't know how to say no to men. I used my body for attention because it's all I believed I had was my body, were my looks. But then once I had the guy, I didn't want him because, well, first of all, they were all narcs that I was constantly attracting. And secondly, I didn't want to be having sex, but I was using my body to get their attention. So it was really like, what's the word? It's conflicting. And then once I had them, I would freak out because I'm like, oh no, now what? Now I have to have sex with them and I want to have sex with them. And so always anxiety, just anxiety, making these sex tapes. I would have to get so drunk, Emma. I would have to be out of my mind to do them. And so what I learned from these Hollywood people is you have to play the game because it's a game. You want to be famous in whatever you want, actress, model, author, whatever, it didn't matter. You got to play the game. And so there were she was like the main recruiter, but then I wasn't making material for Jane. She just is a recruiter and then she passes you on. So she passed me on to Sophie and she passed me on to Michelle. So I had to make constant material for both of them because they have different clients. And I was like a puppet on strings. Like I'd be ready to go out and Sophie would message me, Laura, I just met a new client. Can you quickly do like a little video, right? And I was like, oh, I got to do this video, right? Like it was crazy, Emma. It was crazy. I felt like I had an angel and the devil. And I wanted someone to come save me from myself. That's what I wanted. The guy I was making the sex tapes with, like this is where it got really okay, first of all, I hate sex. Secondly, I was not attracted to him in the slightest. And thirdly, like he was like a brother to me because like he was kind of like the only person I had in my life that I could like share my trauma with because he's like, where's your family, right? Like, and he couldn't believe the shit he was hearing that I had been through, right? Your family did that to you? So he was like a friend to me and like a brother, but then he would cross boundaries at times. And so I was always fighting with him because this was strictly business. And I know he was attracted to me, even though apparently he had a girlfriend, but I don't know, maybe he didn't have a girlfriend. I don't know. But when I felt like he was getting too close to me, like I was like, no. So I was always telling him off. I wouldn't talk to him for weeks on end. Like it was a shit show, Emma. I would have Sophie and Michelle get him back. And like in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, like I know Michelle was messaging him to like reach out to Laura. Like I know that was happening behind my back. So then the building I moved into was 666 Spadina Avenue here in Toronto. So little do I know that the devil is real. Little do I know the demonic shit I'm going to experience in this building. Little do I know what these Hollywood people are doing, right? Because I know nothing about anything. All I know is I have to play the game. Keep playing the game, keep playing the game, keep playing the game. I went through so much depression, so much oppression in that thing. And then I think it was 2014. I was working on a film set, Lost Girl. I kind of just pieced this together. I was like, wait a second, Lost Girl? I was so lost. And I get an email from Brian, another big Hollywood person. Hey, Al, been sitting on your info for a while, just been really busy. Jane gave me your info. I'm a good friend of her family. I owe her a favor. What's going on with your career? So now I have another contact come in my life. And I'm exhausted at this point. Like, I'm exhausted, Emma. Like, I just lived in this torment. It's like I lived a double life. Like, I was working in the film industry, like as a background performer, right? Behind, I'm like, oh, but they don't know that I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be famous. So it was like, I was still like escaping into like, oh, I'm going to be famous. But the real Laura knew, no. It's kind of like I was playing along to go along, but I was so lost. And I had 2 opportunities with Sophie to be the chosen model. The first, and she said to me, Laura, they're going to check, they're going to like, you better make sure there's nothing on you that they're going to find that can ruin your chances of being chosen. I was convinced that everything's going to be good. This is it. This is my opportunity I've been waiting for since I was a child, right? Even though I'm freaking out and I'm like, what am I doing? Who's going to really have my back? Like, I have to be like this sex slave, right? All this is going through like in my mind. So I don't know what happened. I can't remember, but there was, oh, I remember. So when I lived in Vancouver, because when you hate yourself, when you carry, sexual abuse destroys you. Like, I was on such a self-destructive path. And I let men use me. Like I remember my homeopathic doctor, my naturopath, said to me, she says, Laura, she's like, you're not addicted to drugs or alcohol. You're addicted to men treating you like shit. And that was my addiction, being treated like shit by men. So I attracted nothing but assholes. And they like came and went. Like, I didn't have trouble treating them, but they never lasted. And I mean, there wasn't anybody that, like, the Laura now, like, I look back and the broken Laura was attracting those men. But the healthy whole Laura now, no, would never, I don't vibrate with those men anymore. Because I healed. I know my self-worth. But I went through a lot of men and then making these sex tapes. So I was always looking for ways to make money because I was self-employed. So I was always on Craigslist. I was always looking for ways to make money. And I answered this posting when I was in Vancouver, and I knew I was going to be coming home to visit my family. There was this guy looking for a sugar baby, right? I would have been totally set up, Emma, and the old Laura who entertained this stuff, but only because like when you're desperate for money, you'll do anything. And a lot of women in these industries, they have sexual abuse in their lives. That's what leads them into these industries, right? Anyways, I met up with him. Nice guy, but my life was in Vancouver and I wasn't attracted to him. And I could never, the thing with me is that I always felt trapped. So I was always trying to remain, like, to keep my autonomy. And I was a commitment phobe, huge commitment phobe, not just relationships. I hated commitments of all kinds. I made sure I kept my life like commitment free. Even like a family commitment would lead me into anxiety because I just felt trapped. Oh God, now I have to go to this family event, you know, and I don't want to go. Always doing things that I feel forced to do that I don't want to do. It's a horrible feeling when you feel that that pressure, especially when you're raised in families that like I was telling you, Emma, it's like you're in a cult. You have to act like them, think like them, be like them. And if you're not like them, you're outcast. And I had to act, yes, and I had to change who I was to fit into this family who never gave two F's about me. And that was the hardest part, which was to forgive myself for having to demean myself, silence myself, and put myself in positions where I was always verbally abused, emotionally abused, not being true to myself and not having the courage to be true to myself, feeling forced by really my mother, who had to always present a specific image. So yeah, there was a lot of self-forgiveness along this journey that I had to do, and making these sex tapes was another big part of it. Okay, so because I entered that posting, I had his contact info. And he said, if you ever come back to Toronto, he said, I have a friend I want to hook you up with. She can really help you out. So when I moved back to Toronto, he introduced me to this friend he was talking about, Christina, and she was a high-end escort. And so I dabbled in escorting through her. And this was the roadblock with Sophie that happened. I was on Christina's website, but like I was on like the back end of her website in some way. And when they did the background check on me, they saw me on her website. And so I didn't even know I was on the website. And so that was the first failed opportunity. I was so upset. I was so angry. And I was, you know, here I am stuck living in 666 Spadina. I was constantly still fighting with my mom, even though I lived on my own. It was very tumultuous years between me and my mom, dealing with all the demonic stuff I was going through in my apartment, not even knowing what I was dealing with. And so it was a lot. And really having no one to turn to, living this double life. So then there was a second opportunity, and I think it was a similar situation. And by the second opportunity, that was the roadblock in that second opportunity, that was when something in me started thinking, maybe this is not for you, Laura. Maybe this is not for you. As badly as I wanted it, that's all I dreamed about since I was a little girl, being famous. My opportunities are right here, but maybe it is not. So then Brian's in the picture and I'm exhausted. So I didn't really do much with Brian, but Brian's telling me, you got to play the game, Elle, you got to play the game, right? And it's interesting because he called me B. He called me L, I called him B. Me and B were like this, okay? Like long lost friends. We would email 20 times a day, Emma, okay? So I found out some things from Brian. One day I asked him, how did you go from being married to a female to being gay? And he said to me, the industry messes you up. And I'm like, I'm clueless to the industry. I'm clueless to like the satanic part of it. Like, I'm in it and I'm kind of learning as I'm in it. And I still don't know really what he's talking about. And then another time I asked him, what do you do in the meetings? And he told me they call in the spirits. And I still really didn't understand what he meant. But, you know, they do their sex magic, right? So they were calling in the spirits. Great. And then what happened was he went MIA for a few days in like, I think it was 2014, 2015, around there. I can't remember what year it was. And we messaged every day, 20 times a day. And all of a sudden he's MIA. And I'm like, oh no, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. Because it was weird. There was one part of me that knew I'm never going to Hollywood. But then there was that part of me that was still like fantasizing about it because I was in such darkness and I had no hope. That's the word. I had no hope for my life to make it on my own. So it was devil and angel, devil and angel. So finally he emails me and he's like, Elle, there was a huge bust. Delete everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it's over. I'm free. I'm free. I'm thinking I never have to make a sex tape again. I'm never going to be, you know, the carrot dangling, right? Because it was really me. I wanted someone to save me from me. I wanted someone to tell me, Laura, you don't have to do this. I didn't know any other way but to use my body because I didn't believe I was smart enough and like that I could do anything on my own. So he tells me it was so high profile, they had to put a media ban on it. It was for sex trafficking and tax evasion. And that's why I deleted a lot of my emails. I'm thinking it's over, Laura. You're free. This is it. You never have to make a sex tape again. A week later, hey, Elle, we're back in business. And I was like, but what do you mean? I thought you said there was a bust. And it's like, he's like, Elle, it's Hollywood. We're not going anywhere. I was like, oh my God. So then I was always fighting with Sophie because the thing with these people, Emma, that I didn't understand is how depraved they are. They would tell me, the dirtier you are, the better, the more you're going to stand out. And the things they want to see in these sex, you have four, and they want to see very specific things. And I used to be repulsed, like my whole body would be repulsed and I would fight with Sophie. Why do I have to do this for, right? I'm just the messenger, Laura. And so it was these people that became my family that are like luring me into the sex trafficking industry. It was so confusing. It was clearly all related to like my childhood trauma, like the sexual abuse, right? That led me here, not having a mother, not having a family. I was so abandoned. And really all I wanted was love. I wanted someone to come hug me and tell me they loved me. And I didn't have to do this shit, but I was living this double life. No one knew what I was doing. So, Michelle goes to jail and she's not being honest with me as to why she's going to jail. But before she goes to jail, she scouts out this Abby Gold for me. That was an alias name she used. This is where it gets interesting, Emma, because all these contacts, they had an open arm to me. But when Abby emailed me, so Michelle hounded her down because we had similar pasts and she knew we had a connection. So one day out of the blue, I get a message from Abby. But because I read energy, I could feel her walls were a mile high. And I was very aware of that energy. She was like I could feel her thoughts. What am I doing? Who am I messaging? Because this was an A-list actress. That's all I was told. So very high up. It's not until Abby starts doing readings, she sees a psychic, that my name starts to come up in her psychic readings. And then my whole future is being foretold in her psychic meetings, that I'm supposed to follow in her footsteps, because she did the exact same thing that I was doing. She was also abused. She was living a menial life. And I guess she got approached and she made the sex tapes, and my path was follow her. And the brainwashing, like, and that's when she opened up to me. And I couldn't understand, like, how can you be reading my future? And every day, Laura, there was another reading. It was so beautiful. All the angels were there, and trying to convince me that me and my sex partner have this amazing connection. And I'm like, I can't stand the guy. So they were heavily, and I see how the devil, I could have fallen for that. I could have believed her emails. Oh my God, this is my path and we're going to have an amazing, I could have convinced myself of all this stuff. So one specific email she wrote me broke my brainwashing. And that was the email where she said, all the angels were there, and you are gonna, I'm supposed to have a lifelong sexual relationship with my shoot guy, the way she does. We're gonna be friends and lovers, but nothing more. We're gonna be there for each other. And I was like, when I read this, Emma, my brain snapped. And that's when I was like, this can't be the path that my God wants for me. Like, that's where my brain went. This is so distorted. I'm not here to make sex tapes. And once I started listening to that voice, that was the beginning of the end. So Abby kept messaging me with her readings. And I kept saying to her, Abby, my life is going in a different direction. I don't know where I'm headed, but I'm going somewhere. Because little do I know, God is leading me. Because now that he knows I'm listening to his voice, little do I know what is being planned for me. And little did I know how protected I was. So protected from all this demonic stuff I'm going through. And I don't even know the devil is real. The poltergeist, the out of body, the nightmares, like the depression. Oh, and then in 2016, I ended up at a new age store. A friend from Vancouver spent the night with me. She was in town from out of business, for business. And we had this pre-planned for a month that she was going to spend the night with me. The next day we went to lunch. And sure enough, her friend that she was going to stay with the second night just happened to live next to the new age store that I had been wanting to go into for months, but I was always too lazy to go. And I was heavily into the new age. So we go to this new age store, and she's holding this red candle, and I walk over to her and I hold this red candle and I say, Mila, you can buy this red candle in Vancouver. And it's a heavy, big red candle. But what happens in this moment is that something is attaching to me, but I don't know something's attaching to me. I just feel very confused, disorientated, and I have these prickling hot prickles happening all over my body. And I'm just disorientated and I'm nauseous. And I'm walking around the store like a zombie. And I'm like, are you feeling okay, Mila? Because I don't feel good. While these shooting prickles of heat are coming up and down my body. And I'm just like, where am I? What's going on? And I'm like, something's not right. But I'm clueless. And put it this way, Emma, that was the beginning of there was a target on me since birth. And that entity that I brought home wanted me dead. Within 3 months, March, April, May, June, I was suicidal. I could not get out of bed, and it was telling me to kill myself. And Stripes would just lay with me on my bed, and I would stare at him for hours on end while this voice was telling me to kill myself. And I'm staring at my little boy with such guilt. saying to myself, but how do I leave my boy? Because as I explained to you, he's my angel. He was sent to me. He was divinely sent to me. And I know he was sent to me to keep me here and to show me unconditional love and to show me that you don't need a human being. You don't need a human being. And so I raise suicidal thoughts to kill myself. And finally one day, because that's when that's when things got really intense in my apartment. The poltergeist shit started happening, and it was like full-fledged. I could feel something seething. I could feel it, its hate towards me. It was so tangible. And I have Hollywood, and I'm just like, somebody save me from myself. Somebody save me. Somebody save me. And so then I tell Abby, you know, my life is going in a different direction. And she's trying to convince me, blah, blah, blah. She gets Michelle out of jail. This is where it gets really weird, and I wasn't expecting this twist that happens. So then, but I know Abby's not being honest with me. Like, I know she's not being honest with me. She's playing off that I don't have to tape, and she's put off, right? And then until she full-fledged tells me I have to join the Illuminati. I have to join them, and that they ask about me. So these people that run Hollywood, like, they know who I am because they've seen my sex tapes, because control who makes it. Because I had to first get approved, right? They have to approve you and then say, okay, we want to see more material, right? If you want to make it to that level of fame. And so all I know is that Abby gets Michelle out of jail. Michelle, January 2017, Michelle have these emails. Michelle's emailing me from an underground bunker, telling me that the news is all fake, that George Michael isn't dead. He's with them in the bunkers. And there's presidents' faces all over the walls. The world's going to collapse. I'm chosen for the next phase. God and Jesus are our saviors. And I'm like, what happened to this woman? She was in jail, never talked about God or Jesus. Now she's out of jail, trying to convince me that I have a role in the next phase. But you want me to be making sex tapes, but Jesus and God are our saviors. And I'm like, well, who's your Jesus? Because my Jesus doesn't want me making sex. It was so distorted, but I was like, what is going on? And then I have Abby straight out telling me you have to join the Illuminati, and that they wanted me in a binding ritual with my shoot guy. They wanted me to get him in a contract. And I could not understand why. They were adamant that I have him. I couldn't switch partners because the fear was so overwhelming, Emma, that I was like, I'm going to have to do this. I don't see any way. I don't see another way out, right? But it was just like fleeting moments of fear where the enemy was like snagging me again. And then, and that I have to come into a contract, and then the time is right because they're collapsing society, World War III. So they had their own timeline, though, because they were telling me this in 2017, and that within 2 years, society was collapsing. I have these emails, and I meant to send them to you, right? But obviously their timing is off, because I guess they think that they can play God, but they can't. Or maybe they changed their plans. They didn't go the way they thought they were going to go, because they think they can be God, right? But it's wild, because I didn't read these emails for the longest time, and I started writing last year. I started writing, and then I went back into these emails, and I forgot all these emails. I was like, what were these people telling me? And then now I'm looking at what's going on in the world, and I'm like, is this what they were talking about? Because now we're in World War III. And so basically, I was supposed to lure my shoot guy into what he didn't know was going to be, it sounds like they're going to set off an event, and that event they set off is when all the rich people are going to go to their bunkers, and I was going to be one of them, and I was just going to be like, oh, hey, shoot partner, yeah, I didn't tell you this because they told me not to tell you, but yeah, we're leaving. We're going into a bunker now because they're gonna, I don't know, nuke the world. I don't know what their plans are. I'm like, you people are, you really like, I'm like, and see, they wanted me to lie, and I'm not a liar. They tried to get me to recruit other girls into this crap. I was like, the money, Lord, the money's so good. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm doing this, and you want me to get other people into this? I was like, you guys are like sick. And so, anyways, Michelle is just really weird with this Jesus talk, and you got to join me. You got to let Abby help you. You got to let Abby help you. And I went to an astrologer in January of 2017, and she said to me that I was going to go through a huge transformation by the end of the year. Huge transformation. And I'm thinking to myself, what is this woman talking about? Well, come March of 2017, little do I know that all these events are being set up. I reconnect to somebody I work in film with. And because she pops in my head one day, and because I reconnect to her, she re-mentions to me Carolyn Hamlet. But she told me about Carolyn Hamlet 8 months prior when we were working together. But nothing like Carolyn did. No, it was like, okay, I don't know Carolyn Hamlet. I don't know who she is. But Emma, the second time around when she mentioned her, my whole body, like the Holy Spirit was like, go Google her, go Google I got to know who Carolyn Hamlet is. And I went on my computer and I went on her website and I started reading her testimony. And I remember I got a pounding headache and I was like, oh, I see what's happening. I know what's happening. They don't want me knowing this. They don't, because I'm getting closer to the truth. And I just started reading her testimony and I was like, what? She was saved by Jesus and she was raised in the New World Order and the Illuminati. And this was like all new for me. And then I just remember being in my apartment one day in March 2017. And I was just like, my life was so dark. And intuitively, I was like, I created this. I don't really know how. Because I was like, for 20 years, since I was 21, that's when I got into the new age. I spent my money trying to heal my life. And I kept going in circles and circles and circles. And in this moment, I was like, something's not right in my life. Something is not right in my life. And that's when I cried out to the Most High. And Emma, in a split second, the most loving presence filled my apartment. I'm living in this demonic building that has the address of the devil that wants me dead because this entity is trying to kill me in stripes. And I have Hollywood and I reach out, I cry for help. And this love that was so supernatural, Emma, and it permeated my whole apartment. And I just started bawling. But in a split second, Emma, I was wearing a sweater, right? Like a t-shirt with an open sweater. And as soon as I felt this presence like into me, I did this. I covered up my body. And it was through listening to all these testimonies of people that had been molested. And I think it was last year when I was listening to a guy's testimony who had turned gay, but then he was talking about his testimony, how he was molested, and he connected it to, the spirit of seduction. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's what was delivered from me. It was that spirit of seduction, that was the spirit that was luring men to me by using my body. But it wasn't the true Laura, because they were fake men that were just looking at my body. And I was like yearning to find somebody that was looking past this and that wanted to know who I am and my heart and my mind, right? And so it was so instant. And then I was just given downloads. I was shown my life and how I was self-destructing because I believed all those lies. And then I started finding all these testimonies about people that, ex New Ager finds Jesus, ex psychic, ex this, ex that. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, like a kid in a candy store. And that's when I started reading the Bible for the first time. Like I was raised Catholic, but there's no God in this family. Like, and I was very aware of that because I saw people that had no morals. And I believe like your conscience and your morals is the Holy Spirit. And so that's what led me down that path. And I was a changed person. I mean, it took time to like the refinement, right? But I knew that girl that needed that validation, she was dead. And then I just started reading the words of Jesus, and it was like I could feel his spirit. And I would have to close the Bible because I'm like, I feel him. Like I know him. And it was so crazy because growing up in religion class, I could never pay attention to the Bible because it was in King James that I didn't understand. And I was fantasizing about being in the movies. And then here I am. I buy a Bible for the first time, and that's when I remember one testimony I found that really was so profound on me was this guy that was labeled a psychopath, and he tried to kill his father, and they didn't know, so he bludgeoned his father like 8-9 times, almost killed him, but there was no one knew he did it. And so anyways, the son ends up in jail, and he confesses to what he did. But it was in jail that another Christian was ministering to him. And that's when he gets delivered in jail. And that's when he confesses to what he did. And he tells his father, and his father forgives him. And that moment, I remember watching that, Emma, and I was a psychology buff, right? Like I had thousands of books on psychology trying to figure myself out. And in that one moment, I was like, I don't need these books. I was like, God is the psychologist. God can do anything. God changed this psychopath. I started living, well, obviously, I always believed in God, like I told you. I just didn't know, like, God has a path for us, but so does the devil. And the devil really made sure to instill those early childhood wounds, which would lead me on the path that I was on. And it was that rejection and abandonment trauma. And I still had a long way to go, because even after 2017, I have spiritual experience. Okay, great. But the only person I have to turn to is my mother, because I got to flee this apartment. I had been blacklisted from the film industry, which I didn't know about. So for 2016, no one was hiring me. I'm dead broke. So I can't even go to another apartment. I'm dead broke. I have to reach out to my mother. And I remember I emailed her, and then I had a vision that night. God showed me, she read my email, and she was angry. Anyways, she ends up, I got to say, Emma, despite everything she put me through, she still let me come back home, because I could have and would have probably ended up homeless because I was broke. And if she did not open up this house to me, I don't know where I would be. So I had to really be grateful. And then I come back in this house, and like there's more trauma and there's more betrayals. And again, God's still refining me. Even in 2017, Brian messages me, Elle, I can take you to the top. Email me. And I'm like way past that. I'm like, I don't want to be like, no, that girl she's done. But I'm so grateful because I'm the story of the girl that had these big dreams. And I had people in my life to make those dreams happen. but I wasn't willing to sell out for those dreams, because those dreams were not God's dreams for me. Not that I can't work in film, not that I be in the industry, but I don't want to be in industries where I know the casting couch is always, it's always going to be there. Unless I'm making my own movies, like, I don't know where God's taking me, but I know that I have to share this testimony, because when we're seeking something outside of ourselves, because we don't feel we're good enough as is. Because like I said to you, Emma, I had to realize that the motivating factor behind really wanting to be famous, like as a child and growing up, I was like, okay, when I'm famous, I will bring attention to subjects that I'm passionate about. And sexual abuse was a subject that I was passionate about. But then what I realized, really realized, was behind that was that I will finally feel or believe believe in my mind that that fame would make me feel like I'm important now, I'm somebody, and I can like tell like, F you, mom, you tried to destroy me, but see, now I'm famous. Now what are you going to do? Look at me. Now I'm in the public eye. Everyone knows who I am, right? And when I connected that dot, I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep. Because it was all my mother's, like all her shame she put on me, and all her crap. Because little did I know, and I said this to you, Emma, in 2023, when I had that second spiritual awakening, and that's when I started to actually wake up back that I was being abused, that my mother treated me everybody else, and it was staring me in my face. I was bled back into this house, and I fully believe I had to come back into this house, and that was the only way that I was going to make peace with my past and with my mother. And I had to go through the abuse again to see it, because I started to take my voice back. I started to call it out. She got more abusive, but I had to reclaim my voice. And then when I came across scapegoat abuse in 2023 by a therapist on YouTube, Rebecca Mandeville, I read one of her articles and on scapegoat abuse, and reading this article was the validation. Like I didn't know there was a name for what I had been through. And now I knew I wasn't the crazy one, because I was made to feel like I was the problem. And I was the problem for outing the pedophile. Like they made me believe that I was the problem for exposing the pedophile and wanting to save the children. Like that is a real mind, F-U-C-K, when I'm the one that did the right thing. And in her article, she says, the scapegoat is the healthiest person in the family system. And when I read that, Emma, I was like, whoa, wait a second. I was like, Laura, would you change anything about your past? I was like, no. Because I always stood for the children, and I stood for the truth. And it got me crucified. But that's what comes along with being the generational curse breaker and saying, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. And it's not okay. And so I finally was able to see that I was always about the children. Like, Laura, like, even though you didn't save your cousin, you tried. You cared about the children, and they were all that mattered. And because I couldn't see myself through my own lens, I saw myself through my mother's lens, because she had me so programmed and controlled. And slowly, through various therapists that I found, and like sound and light healing, and just the desire to like Laura, you gave away your power for too long. It's time to reclaim it. And I finally broke the suicide ideation, because I lived in that for 45 years. And then I realized, in 2014, I did psychedelics for the first time, and I had a download. And that download was that my mother had an affair with my uncle. And in that moment, I knew the truth. But that was 2014. I had a long way to go before I could get to 2023, where I start to reclaim my voice. I start to call out the abuse. I start to stand up for myself, finally. And then God gives me a vision, a dream. And he shows me it was about my mother having the affair with my uncle. But it took me a couple months to piece it all together. I still wasn't understanding what I was being shown. But when I pieced it all together and I realized that there was nothing wrong with me the way I let my mother believe there was, it was that she had to protect her secret. She had an affair with the man that molested me. That's when I was really able to stop believing those lies, that there was something inherently wrong with me. It was not me ever. It was my mother. And my mother was very sick way before she had me. Like, when I could process that, it was like, oh my God, I wasted my whole life trying to get this woman who is very sick, twisted, and demented. I love her. I have forgiven her. She had to make me the scapegoat in order to protect her secret at all costs. And it was never about me. I am a good person. I was for the children. I will always be for the children. And I'm for the truth. Like, I'm for the truth. And slowly I was able to, like, make peace. My dark life, what my mother did to me. Like, it was my mother all along. Like, you got to process that. But once I got out of that phase, the grieving stage, and then I slowly started to, who is Laura? Oh, yeah. Laura's very creative. Laura loved to do this as a child, and I suddenly am doing all my art.
Can we
And
can
then,
we show some while we're
yes,
talking about it?
yeah, definitely.
I want to bring some up because this is fun, and I think it'll be perfect with what we're talking about right now. Okay. And maybe you can talk us through a few of these. You're talking about getting back into art. I mean, look how
Yeah,
incredible.
those are diamond paintings. So in 2021, I realized that something was definitely wrong in my life. I kept attracting the wrong types of men, and I knew it was like me. And so I stopped dating. And then someone told me about diamond paintings, and I just became obsessed. I think in 2021 alone, I think I did about 40 paintings. And see, I'm a loner by nature. I love being alone. I love putting on my podcasts, and I love just getting lost in art. And I didn't even know that about myself. And so those are framed, actually. I realized that, like, they glitter when you see them in person, they glitter.
Ooh.
And I realized that, like, each little glitter was like actually healing my heart. And yeah, so basically since 2021, I just started tapping into, that's like my current one I'm working on. She's
Stunning.
so beautiful.
Oh, she is. The
Yeah,
detail.
the picture doesn't do it justice, because you can't see that she's half done. Unless you zoom in, but yeah, diamond paintings, you got to see in person. Yeah, so I've been working on her diligently because I can't wait to get her done, and she's going to go on my wall here. I love faces. I love abstract. I was always put in a box, and Uh, Now I'm not afraid to be who I am. I've cut off most people in my life. I know my worth now, and that's something that I never thought I would ever find. And I no longer live in suicide ideation. So I'm grounded now in this reality, and I've healed all that trauma. And I just realized that my mother has her own I realized that I was so codependent to my mother, and I didn't realize that I had so much childhood trauma. That's the weird thing. Like, I had no idea until 2023. And then I was like, wait a second, because I had no memories. That's why I couldn't say, like, oh, I remember as a child, my mother did this, and that. I don't have memories. I only have that one lipstick comment. I don't remember how she treated me, but I saw how she treated me as an adult, and it was horrible. And that's why I was like, oh my God, no wonder I was such a sad little girl, because my mommy hated me, and she was cruel, and she was um narcissists. They love to they'll give you love one moment, and then they love to take it away when they feel like it, right? To always make you chasing, oh, what did I do wrong? I'll be better if I clean the house better. It's always something, right? And now I don't even know, Emma, like, I just accept her for who she is. I understand why she had the affair. She doesn't know that I know she had the affair, but she's not my problem or my responsibility. And she'll have to atone for everything that she did. That's not on me. So whenever that happens for her, like, I cut that cord to her. And then when I worked with the shaman in 2023, as I mentioned, Emma, and we did the soul fragmentation, like, we did the soul retrieval, when she said we retrieved my 2-year-old self that lost hope and faith. So then no wonder by age 4, I had no hope and faith, and I lived in this darkness, because something had happened to me that I don't remember. I don't know what happened. I know my uncle did something to me. I know my bladder infections now are a result. And I asked God so many times, just give me the memories so I can, like, piece my life together and understand. And then I just realized, Laura, I don't think you're supposed to have the memories. So let's just make peace with that. And every time I listen to one of your videos, I connect a dot, and that's enough for me to know, okay, there's stuff that happened, Laura. You don't need to know about it. But it's over and it's done. And I don't let that trauma consume me anymore the way I did. I separated from my family. I don't go to family events anymore. It's been about 3 years now. That's how I finally took control of my life back, my autonomy. And I said to myself, this is my life, and I'm going to live it on my terms moving forward, because I lived my life for everybody else, and I abandoned myself, and I did such horrible things to myself to try to fit in with everybody. And I had to forgive myself for a lot of stuff. And that was very hard to forgive myself, and the shame that I carried such shame. And I realized I was carrying shame that did not belong to me. And so I silently just, like, released all that shame back. And those are my hearts. Like, I am obsessed with hearts. As you
So
can see,
great.
my heart, everything is a heart. And, like, yeah, so I just create hearts, glitter, whatever I can find. And I don't know, I just always was about love and wanting to spread love and be love. And I think that's what I really realized over these past few years, is that my My past happened, I can't change it, but I'm not alone. There's so many people, and if they made it, I can make it. And even though I don't know these people, we're all connected, and their testimonies and listening to what they have been through, like, has helped me heal and find the courage and just know that you're not alone, because I believed for the longest time I was the only girl in the world whose mother hated her. And when I started to learn about narcissistic abuse and, that whole subject, and and then meeting women and they have the same stories about their mothers, I was like, oh my God, I thought I was the only daughter who was hated by her mother. Like, how narcissistic is that? But I just didn't know it was a thing. And so I'm actually grateful. I've been able to help people that I've come along the way, women, see how their trauma is still affecting them. And I don't know if my story can help somebody, because I had my suicide attempt at 27, and then I was in the psych ward for 3 days in 2020, and that something backfired on me, and that's why I ended up in the psych ward. And when I had that spiritual attack come over me, and remember I told you, Emma, in 2023, I was sleeping one night. It was like September-ish. And this is when the spiritual warfare was high. Like, my mother's abuse was like off the charts, because I was waking up to the abuse and I was calling her out, the saying, new levels, new devils. And then one night I was sleeping, and then suddenly something woke me up: kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. And it was such a heavy attack, and I didn't even know it was an attack. And I was like, this is it, because it was so strong. And I was looking for fentanyl, because, see, I was already planning, like, that's the suicide ideation. I was like, okay, girl, like, you tried with like Advil, it didn't work. But if you do it the next time, you better like, it has to work. Because what I realized is that my mother either wanted me to unalive myself or in the psych ward. And I'm not the first person to say that, but I really saw that the demons in her, they loved seeing me in pain. And I knew by 2023, I really was like, okay, Gloria, like, your mother is still inflicting this pain. So clearly she doesn't think there's anything wrong with her, and she's not sorry for anything, and she's still inflicting this pain. And I kept reverting to a little girl, right? My abandonment trauma kept getting re-triggered. And then I was like, okay. So I was looking for fentanyl, because I've done a lot of research, listening to testimonies of people, and I know fentanyl, like, kills. So that's why I was like, okay, if I ever do it, I'm going to, like, fentanyl. That's going to take me out. But then there was the part of my brain that was like, Laura, you could take 10 pills of fentanyl. If God still wants you here, you're going to be here. Because I had already spent 3 days in the psych ward, I was like, I can never go back there. So even though I had those suicidal thoughts, I was like, if it doesn't work, I'm going to end up in the psych ward where I never want to be again. And so in a way, I would laugh at times, because I'm like, okay, God, I kind of see what you did. You let me have the experience of, like, getting my stomach pumped at 27 when I overdosed. And then you let me experience the psych ward. And I never want to get my stomach pumped ever again, because that's the most horrendous thing to go through. But then I never want to be in the psych ward. And if you have a plan for me, because I didn't make it through all this darkness just to end my life, you're not going to let that happen. Like, I have to have a purpose. And maybe this is the beginning of that purpose, Emma, because I think I do need to speak more and help people, because I always knew it was not about me. It was never about me. It's what I can live through and how I can heal that can help other people that are in those dark places that I was in. And then by listening to people who overcame, listen to their stories, and if they did it, well, then I can do it. And then you realize you're not alone in this. So yeah, so here I am. I'm very much at peace in my life. I don't do much. I'm a loner by nature. I love being alone because there's so many things I want to do with my time, because I know time is the only thing I can't get back. And uh, it's amazing when you have self-worth. Um, I I don't I keep my life very simple, but I made it my mission to keep my life peaceful. So I live with my mother, and it's like they act like I don't exist, but I exist to myself now. And that's all that matters, because I didn't exist to myself. And um, now I can see my worth, and I know who I am. And I'm very proud of the woman I am. And all I can say is that the only way I got here was being divinely guided and protected. And I know I didn't do this on my own. I just listened to, that still small voice, and it got me out of the grips of Hollywood. And I'm able now to um I don't know what God has in store for me in terms of like a romantic relationship. I've I'm very happy alone. I don't know that I could ever have a sexual relationship. Um, and I think that's actually what makes me feel safe, is that I never have to give my body to anybody. Um, and I don't know, even if I met somebody, would I? There's been so much trauma there, um, that I am just really happy being alone, but I'm not alone, because I know I have my angels watching out for me. I have God, and I don't know, I have you now,
And your kitty.
and I have Stripes.
You got stripes.
Yeah, yeah. And I see people where they're at, and I just choose to keep people in my life that I don't know, that value me, and that I feel safe with. And that's a hard thing to find, is people that I can feel safe with. Um, but I don't need, I'll just end it on this. I have Laura now, fully. I don't have to escape. I don't need the validation. I delve into my art. I need to create. And people don't understand, uh, how can this girl like love being with her cat and she never goes out? And I'm like, I'm simple. I'm a simple girl. Doesn't take much to make me happy. But yeah, and I sleep peacefully at night, and I feel very grateful. Because I know my life could have went in a whole different direction, and there's not a day that goes by that I say to myself, holy shit, I had myself in very dangerous situations at times. I was on the wrong path, and I was always protected and loved. And really, when you have God, what more do you need? Like, nothing. The kingdom is within. I understand that now. I get that the kingdom is within. There's nothing outside of us. And that's what brings the peace, because you stop chasing. You stop seeking that outside validation.
Gosh, what a
And yeah,
miracle you are. Oh my goodness. And I just want to bring up real quick and just say that this little girl's smile is for you now. You grew up to be the parent, the parental figure, the adult, the leader, the woman. You grew up to be everything that she didn't have. You were able to heal that within her by having compassion for these people in your life that betrayed you and abandoned you and didn't treat you properly, and you were able to heal that inner child and those inner child wounds because of that healing journey and your ability to surrender to your faith and to your God, and to be able to overcome everything that tried to destroy her. You know, I look at your story too and I'm like, gosh, how many people have I heard of that went into and got coerced into some type of sex work, thinking that it would lead them to their next destination, and they became homeless. They were killed. They were trafficked. You know, they went through horrific circumstances, and some of them didn't even make it out. You know, and you could have easily been one of those people that ended up in those statistics. You know, and like by the miracle of God that you are here today, it's just amazing. You know, and that you're
it
able
is
to
a miracle.
yeah, and that you're
It
able
is
to
a pure
reclaim your
miracle.
power now after having so many people siphon that from you, coming from every different direction. You finally own that now and are able to empower yourself, you know, and not have to give that away to somebody else to feel valuable. That's just such a gift, you know. And I know healing's just a lifelong journey. It's something that we're constantly learning about and having to pursue. But I also love too that you're finding ways to let your inner child play, whether that's bringing back the art that you were so passionate about before. And gosh, you're so talented. I mean, that was really fun getting to look at those creations that you drew and made, and being able to tap into that. I think we sort of lose our creativity throughout the years. We're told it's a skill now. You take the class and you have to excel at it in order to do it. You know, they sort of train the creativity out of us and make us think that it's something that you can only do if you're talented at it or want to pursue it as a career. And survivors are really reminding us that no, this is, you know, as a child, you don't care about if it looks good or who's going to see it whenever you're painting or drawing. We just do it as like a self-expression, a way to vent, a way to decompress or to process. You know, children do that naturally. And you and other survivors who are really tapping into that creativity as a way to heal are showing us how important that is to do as adults, and that we should never lose touch with that. You know, that creativity is part of self-expression and processing and healing. And I'm just really grateful and proud of you for coming on here and sharing your testimony and all these really vulnerable moments that you've kept quiet and within you for so long. And I just want to thank you with all my heart for choosing this platform as a space to do it. Deeply honored to host you here and hope to have you back. I think there's so many more things that we could dive into even deeper. And do sort of, you know, a more focused episode on specific parts of your life, even how I was just saying, you know, the nuances of getting into and being coerced into going into sex work. It's something that's really prevalent now with the OnlyFans coming online and all these different ways that young girls are being coerced into thinking that this is a path for them. I think you would be a wonderful person to have on to do an episode on, you know, bringing awareness to this and so many other things in your story too. But this was just amazing getting to hear your story and everything that you've overcome. And I'm in awe that you're here today, and your strength just inspires me so much. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing everything that you did today.
Thank you, Emma. I loved being here, and this is your podcast is the podcast that I was supposed to share for the first time, this testimony. It's been sitting with me for years, and I don't believe anything is a coincidence.
And I hope it's the first of many. I hope that
Me too.
Out more. You're an amazing speaker. I can't believe this is your first podcast that you've done. You were just excellent today, and you're very natural at being able to talk about these really hard things.
Well, you make it easy, Emma. So thank you. You are very special. I already told you this. You have a gift, and I feel very safe with you. And I hope, to this, if I can just touch them in some way, give them something the way they've given me, then I'm happy. It's all worth it. it's all worth it.
You've done that and more. And although Laura is anonymous on this episode, if you guys have private questions that you want to ask her that aren't in the comment section, I have my email down below. You guys can email me and I'll forward it on to Laura. That way she can receive the email, the comments, the encouragement, the questions, whatever it is that you want to share with her. I'll make sure that she gets it. I really appreciate you guys listening to all of these testimonies and for supporting these amazing guests. You guys know firsthand, just how courageous and brave it is for somebody to bear their life, the hardest things that they've went through, for all of us to see. We don't really associate that way in quote unquote real life. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And we couldn't do it without you guys and your support. So thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do to help bear witness and to support and to show love to every single guest on here. You guys are just absolutely amazing. And so I'll have all my info below. Like I said, please leave comments, ask your questions for next time Laura comes on, what you guys want us to talk about. If you guys have any private messages, again, my email is below in the show notes. So please reach out and I'll make sure that she gets it. And with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for listening. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.